On today's video, we're going to make chocolate spread with nuts. Here's the ingredients. I have some dried fruit. I have 5 apricots, 5 dates, and about a handful of a combination I have in a bag of cranberries, yellow raisins, and purple raisins. And they've been soaking in water overnight. Before I use any kind of dried fruit or nut, I always rinse it because there's something known as field dust, which is basically the collective term of everything that might land on the dried fruit or nut during its voyage from farm to your home. Now, that field dust could be insignificant, but I gotta believe that they are not washed in the process, because when you're drying any kind of fruit or nut, water is potentially going to rot the product. So if they wash it, to avoid rotting, they have to dry it, and that increases their cost a lot. So, field dust. I always wash dried fruit or nuts or seeds or beans. Always wash them before you soak them in water or before you cook them. Now this water, because I've washed the dried fruit, this water I think is okay to use. A lot of times I'll use it for cakes or pancakes or breads. I'm not going to use it today because I think water would be a mistake, because it'll help with the rotting process, which I don't want. Now, I told you the numbers. I make small batches. The idea is to show you. If you want to make a bigger batch, put more. Double it or triple it. You can even use other dried fruit like pineapple, give it a nice zing. Kiwi as well, strawberry. Up to your imagination and your personal preference. I also make small batches because I don't have a fridge. And with this kind of weather, hot and humid, without a fridge, you need to finish everything within a couple days. Some of the vegetables last a bit longer, like beetroot, carrot, cabbage. They'll last for 5 days, sometimes longer. So small batches. And here I have the nuts, also soaking in water overnight. This kind of water, you can see it's a bit cloudy. I don't think this is advisable to eat. It might be, I don't know. I don't eat it, or drink it, I should say. In here I have 10 almonds, 10 Brazil nuts, a handful of sesame seeds, and a handful of pumpkin seeds. I rinsed them beforehand. I use good bottled water. Good, I mean clean, because this tap water is from a well and it's not so clean. The locals can use it if they boil it. I can't. My body won't digest it properly. So I'm going to drain this and let the water go down the sink because I don't want to use it. Here is pure cocoa powder. Cocoa trees or plants, I'm not sure, they grow in this area. On this property there's about 30 cocoa trees up on the main level. So cocoa's plentiful here. And here I have another version of cocoa, pure cocoa, showing you both because I don't know what you're going to have. This is pure cocoa. Here is a chunk. It used to be a circle. They pour it in these circular molds. Some are big, some are small. So I had half of it. I just broke off this tiny triangle, and here, if you can see, I have used my knife to chop it up into little slivers. So I'm going to put that back over here. And I have some butter that I'm going to use in the frying pan, and coconut oil as well, virgin coconut oil. I never cook with extra virgin any oil. I have extra virgin olive oil, for example, and I have just regular virgin olive oil. I'll use the virgin olive oil for cooking, extra virgin always raw, always after the food's been cooked. And here I have pure peanut butter. I'm just going to add a little bit at the very end. This doesn't have to be in the process because it's already been ground. So that's the ingredients. The other thing will be a little bit of salt. And then it's going to go in the blender. I'm pointing to the blender, which is right there. And I'm going to add at the end in the blender probably extra virgin olive oil and maybe extra virgin almond oil. So let's begin. I need fire, pardon me as I disappear from the screen. I'm going to turn the fire on, and the frying pan goes. I watched a video one time and the chef was doing a dish with pure cocoa, and she said if you have pure cocoa you can put it directly into the pan. If it's not pure, you should do a double broiler, I don't know what the right name is, or bagno maria in Italian, bain marie in French, sometimes we also use bain marie in English. You would have a pot with water, and you would have another pot or container like a glass or stainless steel that's sitting in that water, and you would melt the chocolate indirectly with the water. Here it's pure, but I still like to add something into the frying pan so it's not directly in contact. So there is the butter. And I'll add also coconut oil. Now I'm going to use a clean spoon so I don't contaminate the coconut oil with the butter. Because it's hot, the coconut oil is mostly liquid. So that was a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of coconut oil. Now I'm not going to necessarily cook the cocoa. I'm just going to bring it back to its liquid form. This is in the way. So here, gently put the cocoa in the frying pan. Now I'll repeat what I said in the other video. I use this spatula. It's a thick rubber. I use it with my Teflon pans because it protects. You can't see it, but the cocoa's melting. This protects the Teflon coating. If I were to use anything else, wood can be okay. The hard plastic can be okay, but sometimes the hard plastic gets these little pieces at the end from being used, and that can potentially scratch the Teflon, which is something I don't want. I bought this little frying pan about 2 years ago and it's still in really good shape. So that's it for the fire. The cocoa has almost returned to liquid, and with the remaining heat that's left, it's gonna come to a liquid. Now, yeah. So here I need to let this cool down. And what I'm also going to do is drain the nuts and the seeds and the fruit, the dried fruit, and I'm going to put the liquid from the dried fruit probably in this jar so I can use it for something later. And we're going to come back when all that's ready. Alright, now I have the raisins, cranberries right here, as well as the apricots and the dates. Most important part was removing the date pit. And I also chopped up a little bit the dates and the apricots. And I noticed what I've noticed before: when you soak the dried fruit overnight, it comes back almost to its original form. The apricots were plump and really juicy. So that's another good idea why you soak the dried fruit overnight. Why you soak the dried nuts and seeds overnight? They also become more plump, a bit crispier, and the science says it's better for digestion. Your body will be able to use more of the nutrients in the nut and seed if it's soaked overnight. So now I'm going to put all this into the blender, and then that's the next step. Now I'm going to have to stop the video again so I can set up the blender, put it right here, and I'll put everything in, and we'll continue. Okay, here is my blender. I have the dried fruit and the dried nuts inside, and a bottle just dropped on the ground. It's a bit windy, and I'm going to put some olive oil, probably about 2 tablespoons. Putting the olive oil in also helps in the grinding process. So that's about 2 tablespoons. Might need some more. Let's put that here. Covering it and just pulsing. So what happens with this is the bottom part kind of gets a void. So I'm going to consistently have to lift up the lid, push it down. I have this that came with the blender. It's just a little plastic spatula. So I push it down, and then I do it again. I'm going to have to do this probably about 20 times. If you have a proper food processor, this step might not be necessary. You just put it in and it does its thing. 1 minute, you're ready. But this is not a food processor, it's a blender. So the process is different. So that's what I'm going to do for the next 3, 4, 5 minutes, and we'll come back. Great. Alright, good news. Got everything here. I removed it from the blender, and you can see it a little bit. The angle of the camera is not the best. If I had one right above my head, it'd be easier. Now, because my blender is not a true processor, I couldn't get it to a super fine paste, which is fine for me. I enjoy when there are little bits of raisin or cranberry or bigger pieces of almond. I like it. If you need yours to be super duper smooth like a store-bought, you need a very powerful food processor. I'm going to also mention I would also add hazelnuts, but they did not have any at the store, so I could not put hazelnut into this chocolate nut spread. So here is the paste of dried fruit and nuts. I am going to add about a teaspoon, maybe less than a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add, this is the pure cocoa powder. I prefer to put it through a strainer because sometimes with these smaller operations, some of the cocoa covering, the shell, gets in, and that would be a crunch that could be painful if someone has teeth issues, like a cavity. So I'm going to put 4 tablespoons. The amount you put really is up to your preference. Okay, I put 4 tablespoons, and I have that corner wedge of the pure cocoa in solid form that I'm going to add. And in case I forget later, I don't want to eat sugar, so that's why I use the dried fruit as the sweetener. If you want to have sugar in this, that's up to you. Very likely you will put less sugar than what's available on the shelves at your store. Those have a lot of sugar. I read the ingredients once, and it said 13% nut. So that basically means it's 13% healthy and 87% unhealthy. This is healthy. I mean, sure, there's a lot of sugar in the dried fruit, but it's natural sugar. It's not going to be as damaging to your body as the liquid sugars that they put into the factory-made nut butters. If you do add sugar, don't add the white sugar, don't add the brown sugar, because those crystals will not dissolve, and you'll be crunching little pieces of sugar with every biteful. So if you want to add sugar, add either powdered sugar, which is also known as icing sugar, or confectioner's sugar, because it's very fine. It'll dissolve, or add a liquid sugar like maple syrup or honey, or molasses. With the honey, a lot of companies take advantage and they mix something else with the honey, so it's usually not pure honey unless you're spending the extra money for it. So be careful when you buy honey. So here I'm going to sift through, get all the clumps out. Change hands because I'm right-handed. This is my first time using this strainer, and it seems to have an issue letting the cocoa go through. Yeah, it's gone through. When the cocoa's fine like this, after the strainer, it's a lot easier and quicker for it to dissolve. Alright, this is taking too long, so I'm pulling an audible. I'm just going to dump it in, and hopefully there's no cocoa shell. And now a scoop of peanut butter, about a tablespoon. Add to the flavor, add to the protein and the fat content, balance out the sugar. And the last thing is the pure cocoa that was turned back to liquid, which has butter and coconut oil. And we're almost done. Just got to mix it up. If you have one of those hand blenders, that's handy. Make things a bit quicker. I'm going to use a fork because the peanut butter is really thick. and it's just going to get caught in the spoon. Get rid of all that good stuff. So this spoon is still clean. This one. So there we go. Won't take long. A few minutes, not even a few minutes. Probably like 30 seconds. Now, if your house is climate controlled, air conditioning or what have you, you can probably leave this out of the fridge if you think you're going to finish it, you and your family, you're going to finish it within a week. I know for myself, I kept one jar out of the fridge for 3 weeks in this kind of weather, and it didn't spoil. So if you have a nice 22 degrees or Celsius or whatever you set your thermostat to, you can probably leave this out. If you make a big enough batch, you can put them in jars or plastic bags. Jars are a bit easier, and put them in the freezer or the fridge. And you know, if you give these away as gifts, you're going to make a lot of people happy. So there it is. I'm going to come a little bit closer so you can see. That's it. Chocolate nut spread, no sugar. I'm going to put this in some kind of container. I have two friends that I'm going to meet for lunch. I'm going to bring some of this with me and let them sample it. And I know personally I'm going to enjoy it. I make a homemade bread, which will be a future video. I make a bread using fire, using hot coals, because along with not having a fridge, I also don't have an oven. So I've been experimenting using hot coals, and it comes out really nice. It's a bread that doesn't have yeast, and it has minimal wheat flour. I try to use as small amount as possible of the white flour and the whole wheat flour, using they're more like powders, you know, seeds and nuts that have been ground so fine it's almost acts like a flour. So that'll be a future one, and this would be perfect with that. So maybe tomorrow I'm gonna have to make some bread so I can spread this on my bread. So there we go, chocolate nut spread. Okay, so it's the next day after I made the chocolate nut spread, and I just have a few things to add as part of the conclusion. Number one, nuts and seeds should be kept in the fridge or the freezer to maintain the freshness. I know a lot of people buy the bigger container, for example a 2-kilogram plastic tub with the big lid from one of those big department stores because it's cheaper, which is a great idea. But if that tub is unopened, it's fine. If you open it, you lose the vacuum air freshness seal, which allows air to get in, which starts the decomposing part of the process of almost any food. So if you do buy that big 2-liter or not 2-liter, 2-kilogram or 1-kilogram tub, you can keep a small portion, use some kind of container, either a plastic container or a glass jar, something you can seal. You can leave that in your cupboard. But the rest of it, I suggest you put it in smaller containers if you can't fit it in your fridge or freezer, or plastic bags, and take it out when you've finished the one that you've left in your cupboard. Very important to maintain the freshness once you've opened that seal. The next one is it'll spread a lot easier when it's not cold. Because of the coconut oil and the butter, when you put it in the fridge, it becomes solid and it might not spread so well on your bread or your toast. So you have the option, bring it out 20 minutes earlier than you're going to eat it, or you can heat it up a little bit. Many people use a microwave, put it in the microwave for 10 seconds, whatever you think you need. Or you can heat it up on the stovetop in a container that has water. So indirectly heating it with the water. The other thing I need to say that many people will not enjoy this because it's not sweet enough. We are a culture that likes sweet stuff. Ice cream, cookies, donuts. So if you have someone or you are someone that needs things sweet, you're probably going to have to add some kind of sweetener by way of the powdered sugar I spoke about in the earlier part of the video, or some kind of syrup. And what you can also do is have two different batches. If you want to eat healthier, but the people who you're making it for, whether it's your family or your friends, they want it to be sweeter, at the end of the process, split the mixture. And keep part of the mixture for yourself, or you can write on it unsweetened, and then with the other part of the mixture you can add some kind of sweetener. Maybe you want to give it away as gifts, and you know the friend or whomever you're giving the gift to is health conscious and doesn't want to eat sugar. You can give them the unsweetened version. If the person you're giving the gift to likes things sweet, give them the sweetened version. Okay, and that was about it. So I really enjoyed it this morning on my pancakes, the nice edition. And I'm using the word pancake because I don't know what else to call it. It's not your traditional pancake that has a lot of wheat flour. And many times there's a pancake mix, the dry ingredients that come in a box all ready to go. You just have to add an egg or some milk or some water or some oil. Those kinds of pancake mixtures, a lot of wheat flour, and if you haven't understood the science yet, wheat flour and similar flours, corn flour would be the same. Once it enters your stomach, it converts very quickly to sugar, which sends your body into emergency mode, trying to remove that extra sugar from the blood. The pancakes I made, it had quinoa flour, amaranth flour, this flour called 7 seeds flour, which has 7 seeds ground, and another one which is maca root flour, a plant that grows up in the Andes, pointing west where the Andes are. Now these aren't actually flours, but they're ground so fine that they seem like and almost act like a flour. They're more like a powder. So I had these 4 powders together with 2 eggs, a little bit of salt, a little bit of water, and a little bit of regular virgin olive oil. And I had them in a frying pan with some coconut oil and butter. And then I topped it when it was done with some more extra virgin olive oil, and I had about a tablespoon of this instead of the usual table syrup, pancake syrup, maple syrup, whatever is your personal preference. We'll do one of those recipes for sure, because it's a very easy way to have a healthier breakfast than the usual pancake or waffle or toast. I'm reading a book by Dr. Mark Harmon. He's taught me a lot. The book is called Food, What the Heck Should I Eat? And it's got a lot of great information. If you don't want to read the book, he's got a lot of YouTube videos, which are very helpful. Hi, I've come back to add another segment to the video because there's something I think is important to share with you about the chocolate nut spread. After about 3 days, I had a small portion left inside a small jar, and it had spoiled. I smelled it, and it didn't smell as it did previously. So I had to throw it away, which was a drag because I love that stuff. Very tasty. I like to add it to pancakes. And I think there's two main differences why it's spoiled compared to what I said in the earlier part of the video, that the previous time I made it, it lasted 3 weeks out of the fridge. Number one, because it was in an enclosed kitchen, which was always at least 5 degrees colder than it is here in this outdoor kitchen. And I think adding the water, letting the nuts and the fruit soak in water, and seeds soak in water overnight, I think the extra water that was absorbed helped in the rotting process. So probably best to keep it in the fridge. If you're going to finish it within 2 or 3 days and your household, your kitchen for example, is air conditioned or isn't quite so hot and humid, it's going to be okay for 2 or 3 days in your cupboard until it gets finished. So that's what I wanted to add. Today is a special video because it's 1 week anniversary since I started making the videos. I made 11 and a half videos last week. The half is because the battery stopped after about 9 minutes. I was making bread using the grill, using hot coals, which we'll do again because it's an interesting way to make bread, tasty, and it could be useful for you on your next camping trip. And on this episode also I made a vegetarian meal. I'll show it to you so you'll maybe watch the video to get this as another idea. Here I have whole grain wheat, red quinoa, purple and green cabbage, celery, almonds, Brazil nuts, pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, and here I have some young fresh coconut from a coconut I pulled off a tree about 2 hours ago. So this is my lunch, and I'll show you, excuse my absence, here's the coconut, and here's where I scooped out the young fresh inside. Some people call it flesh, some people call it meat. I don't know what to call it, one or the other. So thanks again for watching this extra segment, and come on back to watch the next videos.